What's going on, guys? blinkFRO here, and today I'm bringing you a recruiting tips video. Before I start, I'm just going to be the first one to say that I'm not the master at recruiting. I'm probably just about average at recruiting, and I'm playing on varsity recruiting difficulty. Just to give you guys some tips, some pointers. So first thing you're going to do when you start up a Dynasty is what I always like to do. You're going to take a look at what players you'd like to redshirt. I'm not going to redshirt any players in this video. But you're going to take a look at what your team needs, because the game does show you your team needs, but in reality you're going to take a look at what you think you need. Like, for example, if you pick Arizona State, you don't need a quarterback. You're set at quarterback for the next 3 or 4 years with a lot of potential here. So I wouldn't focus too much on a quarterback. Halfback, you're going to be losing a running back. Then you're going to be set with a senior running back, and then you're set there. So running back's not too much of an issue. Fullback's not an issue. Wide receiver will be an issue in the future, as you'll be losing 3 wide receivers and then have a senior wide receiver. And if you redshirt this freshman here, he'll be a freshman next year. So wide receiver would be something. So what you really want to do is you want to go through and see what you're going to need. For example, here, these 2 tight ends will be a senior next year. If you recruit a tight end, he'll be a freshman, which you'd probably want to redshirt. So you'd have him set to go after his redshirt season. So tight end would be someone that you'd want to focus on. Not sure if the game is going to recommend the tight end as a team need. We're just going to take a quick look at that because I'm not 100% sure. And I will be cutting through this video through loading screens and such. And I'll probably do a couple weeks just to give you guys an idea. And I should probably cut some of this out, like this loading, but whatever, we're still in the intro portion of this video, I guess you should say. So yeah, like I said, the team needs is not showing the tight end as a requirement or as a need itself, but I believe it is a need. I believe it is a strong need, because if you redshirt that freshman that's coming in, he will be better and he will be there when all those juniors from this year graduate. And he'll still be a freshman. So what you're going to want to do is, I don't usually do pipeline states. I go straight to the meat and potatoes, as you guys like to say. And what I do is search by target status. Now, this green means these schools are interested in you. And I picked Arizona State because they're only a 4-star, I think they're 3-star prestige school. So it's not like I'm USC and everyone's interested in me. So we're set with a bunch of 3-star team, or 3-star players. And I usually go by interest level. I'll just add a bunch of guys. I'm not going to focus on anything really in this video. We'll add about 20 of these guys. And then, since we are in Arizona, actually let me just take a quick look at this. I've never really done this in the past. Take a look at the pipeline states. And I believe this will tell you, yes, pipeline for Arizona State is California and Arizona. So for any recruit that you recruit from that lives in Arizona or California, they will go ahead and you'll get a bonus for recruiting them. In Colorado, this says we may lose it next year. So I believe this is a pipeline currently, but if you don't recruit anyone from Colorado, you won't get the bonus next year. So we'll go ahead, and I also do this. I go to all prospects. And since we have California and Arizona as a pipeline, we'll go over to Arizona. Since we are in Arizona, and we'll take a look at all the prospects. We'll search by eyes caliber, and just for the example for this video, we'll try to target this 4-star athletic and this 3-star tackle that is not interested in us at all. And then we'll also target some California guys since we have the pipeline. We'll try to go over after this number 1 ranked athlete here, this number 6 overall center. So new to NCAA 13, you can go ahead and go to the recruiting board. Make sure you do this, because I forgot, I didn't even realize you could do this. In the preseason, you can actually scout these players. So we're going to go ahead and do by overall, just for the example for this video. And what's new to this? Like example, this is the athlete that is not interested in our school. You can go ahead and scout their attributes. So there is, I believe, 3 different kinds of players when you scout them out. I'll tell you after we're done scouting this guy. So he's going to be an increase in stats. There is gem players, which I believe is anywhere between like 5 to 8 overall plus from what it originally said. So originally he said, the game said he was an 84, but we scouted him 30% and he is currently an 86. So he may become a gem player if you scout out the rest of his attributes. He may just hover around his normal, he might be 84, 83, or 85, or maybe even 86 max. So he'll just be a regular player. And then there's players that are the opposite of gem. He'll be 80 overall, and he'll wind up like a 75 or 76. And you might want to avoid those players if you're having trouble in the running for them. I'm going to take a look and just scout out this center. I think this might scout him out 100% or about like 80%. So you're going to see he is not a gem player. He's actually the opposite of a gem player. 79 minus 7, so this is very, very important. If you don't do this, you're going to be like, oh, I'm getting an 86 overall player. And then when you actually get him without doing the scouting, you're going to find out he's only a 79. So he's a 5-star prospect, -7 overall, which is horrible. And since we're not in the running for him, we shouldn't be interested in him. But for the sake of this video, just showing you tips, I'm going to continue recruiting him, even though I would probably not do this in real life unless, in a real dynasty, unless we really, really needed a center. But we'll go ahead and we'll just scout out a couple more of these, see if I can find a gem for you guys. I probably shouldn't be doing it with the athletic guys because you only get 30% of their overalls revealed every time you scout them for an hour. And just know that you have, I think, 20 hours here in the preseason, but week to week you only get 3 hours, so you got to be more scarce with it, like around 10 to a half an hour for each player. So we'll go for this outside linebacker. Give him 60 minutes. I want to find a gem for you guys just for an example. I might just cut it to when I find a gem. So yeah, I'm going to cut it to when I find a gem right after you see the overall for this guy. So he's +1. He's not going to be a gem. He's just going to be hovering around his current overall. So I'm going to cut it when I find a gem. Alright, well this is probably the closest I'm going to come to a gem. As you can see, his play recognition is down, but his hit power is up, his acceleration is up. And the game wasn't expecting his other stats to be where they were. It doesn't show the increase or the decrease, but they are higher than, I guess, what was projected. Like a C could be, I don't know, for example, a low 70 or a high 70. I don't know if that's true. So like, let's pretend the game projected it was a low 70 and it wound up being a high 70. That's what led to the +4 overall. So you can't really find a gem unless you can't find a gem in 1 hour of scouting. As you're gonna see, it doesn't tell you their gem until it's 100% scouted, I do believe, or close, like 90%. I don't think we have a punter or kicker. We could probably find a gem easily with one of those. But just go ahead and make sure you scout out all of your players in the preseason. Make sure you get that 10 hours done. Another thing I like to do is I like to turn off scholarship offer assistance right away and keep these other two up there. I'll tell you the reasoning behind that in a second. You might as well just turn off visit assistance too. Yeah, we're going to turn that off too. You just have to remember when someone's going to come in for a visit or not. So I'm just going to go ahead, redshirt a couple players, and then, well, before I do that, I'm going to cut. But in the meantime, between the cut that you guys won't see, I'm going to redshirt a couple guys and get my roster prepared. Just to show you some things overall. I'm not going to go ahead and scout the rest of this 10 hours because this video is just for an example. It's not the entire thing. So I'm going to cut it right about now. Okay, so we're currently on week 1. First thing you want to do is you're going to go ahead and recruit. I believe you can play your game first and then recruit after. But traditionally, I just always recruit first. So you're going to want to head over to your recruiting board. And the first thing I like to do, this worked in NCAA 12. I don't know. I haven't tested it completely to see if it still works here. But what I do, and I probably will still continue doing this, you're going to sort by interest. You're going to pick out the guys you want. But usually I'll just go ahead and offer all these guys scholarships. So we'll start off. Usually you can get away with just one topic. And just that one topic, go ahead, offer them a scholarship. Now in NCAA 12, like I said, haven't fully tested it out in this game. Some players would go ahead and commit right away, week 1, if your school was their #1 interest. Haven't seen that yet in my experience with recruiting, but I will continue to do it. It should keep them happy, keep them as your #1, and there you go. Like I said, that is the reasoning behind it. This guy went ahead and committed right away, so it is still in the game. So what I do, like I said, I go ahead and you're going to see right here, Actually, this is a different guy. It's not showing him anymore, I don't think. You go ahead, you go one topic for all of your first interest prospects. Go ahead, give them a scholarship, because visits aren't going to come this early, so you don't need to worry about that. And I'll get more into that in a second. So after, I shouldn't really show all of this. I'm just curious to see how many players will commit right away. So, for example, if I was interested in all of these guys, I don't need all of these guys to be giving scholarships to. I probably wouldn't do this regularly, maybe. But there you go. We got all these guys out of the way. And if you just want to further scout this guy out, see, he's a 67 plus 5. If I go ahead and give him 40 minutes, should be more than enough. We'll scout out the rest of his stats. So his power moves went up, and I believe that is it. So he is 68 with that. That's plus 6 overall, so he's originally 62. And I believe the game is going to recognize him as a gem now. So he could potentially be a 4-star recruit with that overall. And the other thing I forgot to mention, I don't know if I have any of these guys currently on my recruiting board. But if you see a JUCO player, the I'm an idiot. JUCU, it means they went to junior college, which I guess is kind of like community college. So they played a freshman and a sophomore season over at a different college. And when you recruit them, they will come in as a junior. I believe you can still redshirt them. But for example, let's say most 1-star prospects are 55 overall. A JUCO 1-star prospect will be in the 60s. He's higher overall. He just sought out as a 1-star prospect because he is a junior instead of a freshman. So there's not going to be as much improvement throughout the course of the season as a freshman, because he'll only have 2 years, potentially 3. Or actually, he'll only improve once, potentially twice if you redshirt him, whereas a freshman will improve 3, potentially 4 times if you redshirt them, because they improve at the end of each season. So we're going to go ahead and get into the recruiting here. So, for example, this cornerback, we're his second interest. So you kind of have to balance this out. I like doing between half an hour to an hour. I usually give the hour to the guys that are interested in our school less, so like 6th, 7th, 8th on the list. And what you want to do is, I believe, first, because this is new to the game, the prospect's choice, you actually get to pick all of this in this game, whereas NCAA 12 was different. First thing you want to do is click on prospect's choice, because you go ahead and you get the prospect's choice bonus, and you just figure out something random out. And then obviously you want to focus on these things. You're going to see prospect unknown. Arizona State is A plus, B, B, B minus, B minus. You want to focus on your higher qualities in your school. So campus lifestyle, you got make, pitch, and find importance. What I always do is find importance first. So he is above average interested in campus lifestyle. You can go ahead and sway that later on. I'll probably show you that in a bit. You don't want to go ahead and make a pitch right away. I don't know if you unlock it. I'll test it out on the next guy. So you want to find importance. That low we can go ahead and sway later on. I'll do that next week. I'm only going to show you this with a couple prospects. I'm not going to go ahead and do all the remaining 8 hours and 20 minutes. I don't know how these guys got more interest in our school from the preseason. Maybe they realized we're trying to go after them. But we're going to go after this 86 overall athlete. We're going to go ahead and just give him the rest of the 60. Give him an hour of scouting. I'm just curious to see what his overall will be. And the good thing about scouting the athletic guys, you can kind of figure out what position they're going to play. So his catching is not unlocked yet, and his zone coverage is only a 33. So I'm going to assume he's going to be a wide receiver. His route running is an 84. So we're going to consider him as a wide receiver. You might even be able to use him as a quarterback or, linebacker, any of that other stuff. That's the glory of these guys. And remember, at the end of each season, you can go ahead and do position changes. So if you have a wide receiver that's really fast and you have a running back like that, your running back position's depleted, you can change a wide receiver to a running back or a wide receiver to a cornerback, depending on his stats. So that's always a good thing. So he's 84 overall. He's about average. He's not going to be a gem. So with these guys that aren't interested in me, barely, I'm going to go ahead and give them the 60 minutes. Go ahead, do prospect's choice. campus lifestyle, we're going to find importance, which is very low. We can try to sway that later. We might even be able to sway it as high or very high. Playing time, that's very high, so that is good. That is a very, very good thing for our school, at least. So this guy's going to be a challenge. It's good to see the very high and A+. We're going to have to try to sway the very low higher for the A+, and the least higher. Because I'll show you next week, you can go ahead and you get more points depending on their interest in that certain category, I guess you can say. And real quick, I just want to see if you go ahead and make a pitch, if it actually unlocks. No. So if you make a pitch right away, it's not going to unlock. It's plus 18 interest, so that's probably low or very low. So right away, you always want to do find importance. And I think you actually get more for that anyways. And then you can go ahead and try to sway some of those and recruit based on that anyway. So I'm just going to end this call. I know you shouldn't do that normally. I'm going to cut over to next week. Okay, so we're currently in week 2, and as you're going to see, that's the player that committed to Arizona State after offering him the scholarship right away. And the other thing I forgot to mention is if you're a 4-star prestige school, if you go ahead and meet all of your goals and you have a good record, you could potentially move on to a 5-star and then potentially up to a 6-star. So don't be discouraged if you're a 1-star team. You can potentially move up to a 6-star team after multiple years, probably like 10 years or so. So we're going to take another look at the recruiting board. And, first thing you want to do is focus on these guys that interest is number 1. So he went over to first interest. We're just going to go ahead and offer him a scholarship. Sometimes I'll do a couple topics and then offer him a scholarship if they just moved into one. But for the sake of the video, I'm just going to offer him a scholarship right away. So he went ahead and he committed to Arizona State, so that's good. He just went over to first interest, so that's very good for our school. So I think this is a pretty good strategy. If they're first interest, go ahead, offer them a scholarship. You can even give them a couple of talks on the phone. Try to find their interest in certain topics before doing it. But just in case, I always just do one in case they commit right away. Then it's kind of like you just wasted the phone call. And there is 14, 15 weeks of recruiting, and then an extra 4 or 5 in the off season. So I wouldn't worry too much about just wasting a phone call, just giving them 10 minutes and then having to wait next week. I wouldn't worry too much about that. So we're going to go over to the athletic guy. Hopefully I can find him. 84 overall, this is him. So now he is currently 6. If you hit Y or triangle, you're going to see where you rank in terms of everyone else. So we are 380 points behind USC, 20 behind Arizona, and 220 behind Auburn, etc., etc. So we're going to continue recruiting him. So since I really, really want him, I'm going to continue giving him an hour. So as you're going to see, the playing time is very high. And for example, for this guy, I would just go ahead and make the pitch. But if, let's pretend USC, their playing time was a F. We can compare schools, and we would get plus 125, and USC would get negative 125. So hopefully there's another school I can show that with. No. Usually with the 5-star recruits, 6-star recruits, 5-star recruits, you can't do that because the playing time is always going to be A. So we're going to go ahead and make the pitch, and since he is from one of our pipeline states, we get an extra 28, and from time to time we get a recruiting advisor just out of the blue, which always doubles ours. So that's random. I'm pretty sure you can buy an upgrade with real money to have that happen all the time, but that's cheap. So since his is very low prospect importance for campus lifestyle, we're going to try to sway that. So the sway succeeded. Now his importance about campus lifestyle is low instead of very low, which is going to help us out a lot in the future. We can continue swaying it up until very high, I believe. I think you can even do multiple mosts. I might be wrong, though. I forget. Now, the sways aren't going to work all the time. I'm sure if you do recruiting on Heisman, there's going to be a 10% chance it works. Varsity is probably a 50% chance. So his importance for conference prestige is a high, which is good, but for the sake of this video, we're going to go ahead and sway it again to very high, which is what I would normally do anyways. So very high is where you want it at. Like I said, I don't know if you can get it to most, but very high is very, very good. And the reasoning behind this is obviously the things with very high you can get more points out of. And then when it comes time for a visit, you're going to have to pick the top 3 things to talk about in his visit. So for example, playing time would be the #1 thing we talk about. Conference prestige would be the #2 thing we talk about because it is our 3rd highest thing. And then if we can get campus lifestyle to above average or high or even higher than that, that's going to be the 3rd thing we're going to talk about. And I don't know why I said conference prestige was the 3rd highest. We would try to get proximity home up there. Proximity to home. I feel like I'm talking really fast and I keep screwing up my words. But anyways, I'm kind of doing this as I go along. I don't have anything written down on paper. So I apologize if I'm skipping back and forth. And I might make a condensed version of this later, which if you guys are at this point in the video, you probably don't care so much about that, but I think I might do it anyways. And since this player is from Santa Rosa, California, and we're in Arizona, no, that's not what I wanted to say. We're going to take a look at the make promises. If you have space for him on your roster, like he's 84 overall, so obviously he's going to be one of our best wide receivers if we decide to make him wide receiver. We're going to make sure we don't redshirt him first on campus. Wow, redshirt him on our team the first year on campus. And that's going to give him more faith in our school, make him more interested in our school. And I think that's really the only thing we want to do. If you do solid playing time, if he gets injured, you might fail and he might transfer. So I try to avoid that. If you think you're going to be really good, you can guarantee some of these other things. But they're more risky than the other ones. I think maybe you'll get more points than by these ones. No, not really. So you want to stay away from some of the risky things, and I'm going to end this call. I know you shouldn't do that anyways. But let's take another look. So for Mike Wallace, he is from Arizona. We're just going to do this. All of your recruits that are in your college's state, you're going to want to go ahead and make the promise to play in the player's home state. Because he's from Arizona, your school's in Arizona, you're guaranteed a game in Arizona. You're guaranteed 6 games in Arizona. So that is the easiest promise to make. You get almost 200 points for that every single time. You can go ahead and sort by states and then all positions. And, you know, this quarterback will just say, hey, we're going to make a promise that you're going to play in Arizona. Because we're in Arizona. And I think it's kind of funny that they actually like that you promise that, because it's kind of a obvious thing that if you're playing at Arizona State, you're going to play in Arizona. So that's kind of a stupid promise. It's, I guess, more for if you make that promise to someone from California, you're going to make the promise that you play USC, UCLA, or Cal. If you make a promise from someone from New Jersey, you're obviously going to have to adjust your schedule and play Rutgers at Rutgers to make them happy. Otherwise, they might transfer from your school after a year. With the promises, you have to make sure you fulfill them. Otherwise, after a year, they might transfer if they're not happy. So you can take a look at your promises. You have to make sure you fulfill all of these. Or like I said, they might transfer after a year or two. Advisor you have to pay for, so I don't want to do that. And I think that's pretty much it. I can show you guys the visits to the school, but I explained it. You just schedule a visit. If you have like 3 things that are very high interest in your school's level for that is high, you're just going to want to go ahead and schedule that as soon as possible. But I think that's going to wrap up this video. If you guys have any more questions, ask them below. Either I'll answer them, or I'm sure there's someone else in the comments that will answer it too that might have more knowledge than me, or that will just reply to you faster than I do. But I think that covers the basis. I apologize that this video was so long. Like I said, I might just go ahead and make a condensed version of this, but if you're this far into the video, it's pointless because you've seen everything and heard everything that I've just done. But that's going to wrap up this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. As always, thanks for watching, and tune in next time. Alright, one last thing before this video is over. I'm just going to show you a couple things that I mentioned in the video but didn't actually show. This is me downplaying Oklahoma State or a different college. You're going to see they get minus 120. We get 125 plus towards the interest, so that's going to help spread the distance, increase the gap between the interest in your school and a rival school. You want to do that if anyone is significantly lower than yours. And there's me scheduling a visit, and I'm going to just show you real quick. Now I didn't necessarily pick the best ones. This is how you schedule the visit. Make sure you do it every single week. And that's going to wrap up this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. And as always, thanks for watching, and tune in next time.